Hi everyone, so I had some requests for questions from the homework from chapter 3.1. So question number 4 says if you want to determine an unknown side length or angle measure in a acute triangle, what is the minimum information that you must have? Alright, so first let's sketch a triangle and see what we need to have in order to find missing side or missing angle. So let's say if you're given one side, let's say you know side, let's label it first A, B, C. So remember, you use capital letters to represent the angles, and then the opposite side is going to be the lowercase letters. So this is angle A, the opposite side is going to be lowercase a. This is angle C, the opposite side is lowercase c, and this is angle B, this side opposite to it is going to be side B. So that's really important because some of the questions you're not given the diagram, so you have to be able to sketch it just from the information given in the question. So make sure you understand how to create a diagram just from the wording that sometimes the question may have. So anyway, let's say if you know angle A, so that's given, let's say, I don't know, let's give it 50 degrees. And you want to find angle C, right? So this is the unknown that you're trying to find. Well, if you're trying to find the angle, you need to have 3 out of 2, right? Because this is the relationship. You have your sine of the angle A over side A. And let's say you're looking for angle C, so you're going to use sine C over side C, lowercase c. So here, let's say we know this and we know that and we know side C. So the only unknown is the angle, right? So that means that you need to have 3 things out of the 4 every time you're looking for something. Either it's the side that's missing or the angle that's missing. So in this case, if you are looking for angle C, you have to have sine A, right? So the angle A. You have to have side A. So let's say this is 12 centimeters. And then you have to have side C. Let's say it's also 12 centimeters. So now you can find the angle C, okay? Which means you have to have an angle and an opposite side to it, and then another side, okay? So that's the requirement for missing angle. So for missing okay, you must have 2 sides, right? And one opposite angle to it. So for example, in this case I have A and side A, but you could also use, for example, side C, or sorry, angle B and side B. That could be another option instead of side A and angle A. So you're going to need, again, 2 sides and an angle that's opposite to one of these sides. Opposite to one of the 2 sides. Okay, so for, like I said, whether it's going to be angle A inside A, or it could have been angle B inside B. So you have to have an opposite angle, because in some cases, when you don't have an opposite side, for example, if you had something like this, when you had side C, angle A, and you're looking for an angle C, and let's say you're given this side here, this is, let's say, 10 centimeters, right? You can find angle C. Why? Because there's nothing opposite to this angle 50. So that's going to be a case for cosine law, not sine law. So that's going to be the next couple of sections. So sine law has its limitations. You have to have this you have to have two sides and one angle that's opposite to one of the two sides. Now, if you're missing a side, then it's a little more forgiving. Then in that case, you have to have two angles and any side. So as you can see, you have to have 3 out of 4. You always have to have 3 out of the 4. You can't have just two things or one thing. And again, if you are missing something, you have to have at least one side that's going to be opposite to one of the angles. Otherwise, you can't use sine law. You have to use something else. So again, this is just a conceptual question. So make sure you, again, look at the law, think about it, what's missing, what you need to have in order for you to understand. And also, make sure you understand how to sketch your own diagram from the question. Now let's take a look at question number 2. Question number 2 has 4 parts to it, but really B and D are the same as A and C, so I'm not going to do all of them. So this is going to be A, this is going to be C. So the question asks you to sketch a triangle that corresponds to each of the questions, and then solve for the unknown, either length or the angle. So in this case, A, we have W sine 50 and then 8 over sine 60. So in order to sketch this, start with the unknown. The unknown is the side, so it's a lowercase w, right? So that's going to be W. Then the sine 50 has to be opposite. So this is going to be opposite to it. So this is going to be 50, and this would be the capital W for the angle. And then the other side, the 8 over sine 60, doesn't really matter. You can stick it anywhere you want. So let's say if I make this 8.0, then this side, this angle has to be 60. So this has to be 60 then. And that's all you have to do for this question. So we can add some more letters. Looks like W, so we can use X and Y in addition to the W if you want. So we could call this angle X. This would be then side X. And let's say if this is angle Y, this would be lowercase y. So anyway, that would be your diagram with all the labels on it, with the lengths and the angles. So that would be part 1. Part 2, again, you had to solve for the unknown and round to 1 decimal. So whenever you solve for the unknown, you cross multiplying. Okay, so here's our given question. So we have sine of 50, 8.0 over sine 60. So we are looking for W. So all of these questions, sine law, you're cross multiplying. So you want to get the W by itself, which means you had to get rid of the sine 50 on the bottom, which means you had to multiply by sine 50 both sides. So when you do that, it will move from bottom left to top right. So you're going to take this, multiply by sine 50, take this, multiply by sine 50. So it disappears from that side and goes to the right top. So now you're left with W by itself. So now you have 8.0 times sine of 50 over sine of 60. So it's all about cross multiplication. So 8 times sine 50 is 6.128, and then divide this by sine of 60, and you get 7.1 if you round to 1 decimal. So remember rounding. Remember your rounding rules whenever you have to round something. So this is a missing side. There's no units given, so we don't know what this is, but this is units of lengths. So whatever that is, meters, centimeters, inches. So that's part A. For C, we have the same thing. Again, in this case, we're missing an angle though, because sine M. But first, you're going to label your triangle. So in this case, let me label it using different colors. So sine M, let's say this is M. I'm going to call this my M, which means this is going to be lowercase m. Let's call this angle N. So this is going to be lowercase n. Let's call this angle O. So this is going to be lowercase o. So I've labeled my triangle. Now let's put all the stuff that we know. Sine M is unknown, so this is the question, the part that we're looking for. The side M is 6, so this is going to be 6.0. And then on the other side, whatever angle you want to call 72, let's say we call angle N 72. You could have picked O, doesn't really matter. If this is 72 degrees, then lowercase n has to be 10. So this is going to be 10.0. And the O, in this case, we don't need in order to find the angle M. Now, this is a case where we need to solve for the angle. So there's an extra step at the end that we need to take the inverse. But again, this is cross multiplication. When you have the unknown on the bottom, there's one extra step that you have to do is get this on the top first. Basically, going to do that. I'm going to cross multiply. So let's write it down. 6.0 sine of angle M equal to 10.0 over sine of 72 degrees. So the first step is to cross multiply. Again, we're cross multiplying in all of these questions. Some of them, there's just one step. In this case, we need to do 2 cross multiplications. So we need to move sine M to the top. So we're going to move this up. We can do maybe 2 steps in one go here and move this part to the top as well if you want. So in that case, we're going to end up with 6 times this. So we're going to get 6.0 times sine of 72 degrees equal to 10.0 times sine M. So again, cross multiplication, stuff that you know since elementary school. Now we do want the sine M by itself, so we need to get rid of the 10. So as you can see here, that's why you want to pick sometimes what do you want to use. Do you want to use the case where you have the sine of the angle on the top, or do you want to use the length on the top? So that's why the formula for sine law is expressed in 2 ways, because you get to pick what are you trying to find. So you basically skip this step that I'm doing right now. But if you're given this as a question, then you do need to go through all the steps. So cross multiply, divide or multiply, whatever you have to do here, get the unknown by itself. So now we have sine M by itself. So now we can figure out what this left side equals to, and then take the inverse. So here's what we know right now. We know that sine M equals to all of this. So equals 6.0 times sine of 72 degrees. Again, make sure you calculate it in degrees over 10.0. So you're going to calculate what this is. And again, whenever you do this on the calculator, you want to leave the answer on the calculator. Don't delete it so you don't have to round anything. So you're going to do 6 times sine of 72. You get like 5.7. Divide by 10. And we get this number. So you keep this number on the calculator. The only reason I'm writing it down so you can see the step, but I would not write this down normally. I would just take the sine inverse. So this equals to this number, and you want to keep at least 5 decimals here. So this would be 3 here. This keeps going, so there's more decimals. Ideally, this is what you want to do. Ideally, you just want to write the angle M equals the sine inverse of all of this, and that's what I recommend you do on your calculator. Actually, once you do the multiplication and division here, then you press sine inverse to get the answer for the angle. So you would do all of this on the calculator. Okay, and in this case, the angle is 34.8 degrees. So M equals 34.8. Okay, so again, whenever you're solving for the unknown, you're cross multiplying here. Okay, so that's all the questions I had for section 3.1.